Hi, Greg, and welcome to Hands in the Soil podcast. I'm really excited to have you here with me today. How are you doing today?
Really good. Just had a great day on the farm. It was hot day. It's not super hot, but it's hot for us. And yeah, close to late May right now, so there's a lot of daylight hours and a lot of stuff to do. Things are growing and super fun.
Yeah, it's like definitely starting to feel like summer here in
Yeah,
San Diego. I feel like there's
yeah,
also a lot of people that have suddenly come into the area I've been
yeah.
noticing lately. But yeah, it's like way warmer. It feels like we're really getting into summer, which is exciting. I always love to start my interviews off with asking my guests how they got into agriculture. And we were just
Mhm.
touching on how you have kind of had a bit of a winding road that got you to where you are now. So, can you just share what got you into agriculture in the beginning and how did that lead you to where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And it was a couple different things like happening simultaneously. How I got into ag, and I didn't know that I was going to become a full-time farmer. A first generation farmer right now, just so you guys know. Didn't grow up on a farm, grew up in the suburbs. No agricultural experience. I remember my grandma had like a lemon tree that we made lemonade from a couple of times and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I was like mid-20s. Where I was working at I got my first job at like, or not my first job, but I got a job at a farm to table restaurant in Escondido called Stone Brewery and World Bistro Gardens. I was a food server there, and that was my first experience with organic food and a farm to table restaurant. These vegetables just tasted so good and made me feel so good. I was playing college soccer. I was like really into athletics or working out, and I just noticed I had more energy, more stamina on the field. So it led me to believe, or led me to ask questions like, why is this food tasting good? Why is it making me feel good? What have I been eating my entire life that I thought I was eating healthy? You have vegetables, you have, meats, like a balanced diet, not tons of fast food or anything like that. But and just upon
Mhm.
research and asking questions, it was all about soil health, lack of chemicals and pesticides and fertilizers and things, and also the proximity of food to the end consumer. So if it's harvested, if like say a lettuce head is harvested, as soon as you pick it out of the ground, it starts to deteriorate or like lose nutrients and flavor. They are hand in hand, like a nutritional value plus flavor and aroma. So, anyways, just like the proximity, it's a farm table restaurant or organic foods and locally raised meats. The time that we get to the end consumer to eat it, it's fresh, it's good. And so then I was like, all right, this is great. How can I do something? It really prompted me to start my own garden. Oh, yeah, so Stone World Bistro and Gardens also had the farm was called Stone Farms, and you had Jessica on your podcast, which was
Yes.
Terra Madre. Um, so that was a cool connection that
Mm.
it was just really inspiring to me in my first journey. At this time, I was not not a farmer or anything like that. I just started YouTubing things, and I found this guy Ron Finley. He was just like a gangster gardener, they called him, but he was just like guerrilla gardening, like doing growing food in wherever he could, like in the medians or like the edges of the sidewalks or people's front yards, backyards, just any way you could. And I was like, all right, I can do that. The very first garden I started was out of um, I repurposed like a queen size bed frame, and I just like put it in my backyard, filled it with what I thought was good compost or soil or whatever, and just like started it and failed. Like I grew some tomatoes or whatever, but it just like everything else kind of died. And I was like, all right, let's just do some more research and figure out how to do this. And yeah, so that's kind of how it started with the gardening, like that spark and the flavor and the nutritional value. Also being a little upset with the current system that way. Anyways, that led me, more research, YouTube's podcasts, like found out about permaculture design, which then I was really into looking at super adobe homes, like sustainable home building, like stuff that's really inexpensive, but is doesn't need air conditioning or heating, and it like works with the nature and the elements. And I was like, this is fascinating. One summer, I wanted to I wanted to get involved in permaculture design somehow or farming, and wanted to take a little vacation. So I was like, where can I go surfing and learn permaculture at the same time? So I found some places in Costa Rica that offered some woofing close to the beach, and I stayed there for a summer, just like 2 months. I worked on a few different woofing sites, and got my that was my inspiration to all things sustainable and growing food. And I was like, this
Mm.
is great. All right. How can I do this in my hometown or my area in Encinitas? And I was born like an hour north of here, but I've been in Southern California my whole life, so I just wanted to bring all this back to Encinitas, and looked up, permaculture design in San Diego or in and found Brooke Sarson at Catching H2O, and she was offering like a volunteer day to install rain barrels on people's houses, like catching rainwater and then using that water for landscaping or for growing vegetables or in fruit trees. So yeah, that was the start. That was, and then I worked with her for one day, and she's like, yeah, you want a job? And I worked with her and for 2 years, her and Rosalind Hasselback of Catching H2O, installing gray water systems. At the time, we were in a really significant drought. I mean, so we're in a desert, Southern California. And so catching rainwater, it just made me feel good. I wanted to have a career in something that just, I mean, for lack of a better word, like something that feels good, something that's better for the planet than where you left it, and not just extracting so much. So I wanted to feel good in what I'm doing for a living and also earn a living. So it's like, how can I do both those things? It resonated with me to do that, and it was physical. It's very tangible, like you're building things, and catching rainwater was very, very valuable to me. And then all that was to, grow plants and landscaping and fruit trees and vegetable gardens. And I quickly got gravitated towards that growing food aspect of it, caring for fruit trees, caring for vegetable gardens. Then I got involved with Mia Vaughn at Good Neighbor Gardens, and they just install
Mm.
backyard gardens and vegetable gardens, growing food. So I had all these little part-time jobs, just trying to like make it work, because it made me feel good. It wasn't making a ton of money, but it was enough. And still at this time, I still had a part-time like bartending job in the evening, and then working all these like landscaping jobs during the day. Um, but I knew it felt, like I said, I knew it felt good. So I just wanted to like keep it going and keep that spark going. So that's a start. And then there's
Yeah.
more after that.
Yeah.
Keep
So,
going.
well, I'm curious just within some of that because I know you've transitioned into more of like a farming space. And I think that there's kind of a distinction between gardening and farming. There's a lot of crossover, but that
Mhm.
like I think there can be like a jump between doing it for joy or doing it for a living. And you can still work in the garden space and you can be making money or running it as a business in some capacity, but I'm wondering if, as you kind of take us into the rest of your journey of kind of, I feel like you'll get into more transitioning into the farming space. Could you also just reflect on how does that, how do those two worlds differentiate? Or does it feel very different to be in the garden space versus the farming space, or maybe not?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely differences. Like gardening at your house, I mean, it could be a hobby. It's something that you eat from a little bit here and there. You have some herbs, or you have depending on how much space you have, you can have, you know, a couple things in each meal every day. You could have 25%. Um, and you're not like pressured to, I hope I don't want to like demonize farming really, but like you're not pressured to like grow a certain thing and sell a thing, because at that point it's a business. So if it's a hobby, cool. It feels good. Like you're still connected to land and your food. So then the differentiation for me was like I was doing all these backyard gardens, and it was great. But even though I was growing food for people at their house, it just, for me, it wasn't enough. It wasn't
Mm.
like, it's cool to do on a couple raised beds or whatever, and people valued it, but it didn't account for much of their diet. And also, like, taught school gardens as well, like school education programs, and that was great too. But then um, like I was teaching kids how to do it, which is valuable, but I wanted to like grow enough food to really sustain a living, but also sustain people and their diets. And that's what led me to market gardening, this style. So it's like an urban farming style where you're growing a lot of food in a small space. What I was talking about earlier with the proximity of time or the proximity of the person itself, like distance. In an urban setting, you can grow food right where people live, and you're getting like from harvest to end consumption, within a day or a couple hours or a couple days, versus the normal like conventional system. Food is grown far away, and it takes a week or two or whatever to get to the grocery store, and then you buy it. By that time, it's already a couple days old, or I mean, a week or two old, and losing value. Anyway, so I was like, how can I do this? Like, that's all great. That's the system that we're in. But how can I do that? Like where people are, grow the most amount of food in a small space, like a quarter acre, 1 acre, tenth of an acre, whatever, and make a living at it. So that got me into market gardening. Sorry, did I answer the question about like
Yeah.
differentiation between gardening and farming? It just was
Yeah.
a matter of scale, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And different, picking some things that to grow that are profitable. This technique in market gardening is growing things that are pretty quick to maturity. So it doesn't take a ton of time in the ground since you don't have a lot of real estate or space. High value crops, other things like popularity, like things that are going to sell, and also things that grow in your area or things that I like to grow as well, and seasonality.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, anyways, that led me to market gardening. Got my first job as a market gardener at a nonprofit. But my friend Marcos Mujica, who's still a friend and mentor and business partner, but um, he hired me, and it was probably less than a quarter. It was probably like, yeah, I don't know, a quarter acre. We had maybe 50 beds that were like 50 feet long or so, and I ran that for a few months. Even before that, I was doing something at California Farm and Garden, which is more backyard gardens. But anyways, after the market gardening thing, got to work at Sage Hill in Escondido, Sage Hill Ranch Gardens with Spencer. And that was what like really catapulted me into how to grow food, a lot of food on a small scale. And he had a business model and was a great friend and mentor, still is. He's crushing it. Like it's a couple acres in Escondido. Um, and making a living, and has employees and great quality food and yeah, really good systems. And he's like 9 or 10 years in now. I think when I was there, he was probably about 4 years in. Um, but it really taught me how to like work ethic, like how to do it quickly, systems of like planting spacing, seasonality, like when to start things. Yeah, that was just like a masterclass. And it was 2020. It was during COVID. I just got this job like a month before the pandemic happened, and I was like, I have to help feed the people and feed the world and blah blah. And I
Yeah.
was like, let's go. So it was inspiring, and I worked, the entire just a year there, just shy of 12 months or so, and um, that gave me like a tons of education in how to do it. And after working there, it was slow at the end of 2020, like early 2021. Restaurants were closed off. Anyways, so it inspired me to start my own farm. I had like the knowledge. I had, or at least I thought, because you think you know a lot, but then you do it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, oh man, there's a lot more going on here. Had something with Marcos Mujica Agrarian Craft. We did our backyard was 5 50-foot beds and market garden style. And then after that, got with some friends, Mount Melina in Cardiff, and a group. I was part of a nonprofit for a while called Sea and Soil, and we farmed a backyard in Cardiff that was like about an eighth of an acre that David Burning is still running. So that was 5 years ago. So I did that for 3 years. It was like maybe a year with Sea and Soil, and then 2 years on my own, and started a farm stand there, and the CSA program was already started before. Yeah, man, there's just been a lot. I worked at indigenous regeneration with Lacey Cannon out in Valley
Mm-hmm.
Center. I helped start it was probably about a half-acre farm or so. Just it was a non-profit that was um, really close to San Pasqual reservation out there, and we would grow food and donate it directly, like the CSA, to the tribal members there.
Mm.
And so I got a lot of indigenous knowledge from her and Richard Bugby, who is the late Richard Bugby, who's passed away. He was just a you know just a awesome person, awesome guy. An elder and an indigenous man, and like he was living on property, and like we would just talk, and he would tell me all these things, and I'm just like, what the heck? Like, man, just like blew my mind. Um, yeah. Anyways, so I know it's a lot of there's so many jobs, and it just kind of led me
Yeah.
down the way, and now when I was at Cardiff Tiny Farm. This led me to something else, but at that time, I didn't know how much impact it was going to happen, like starting a farm stand. And I knew that it was going to do that something more was going to happen either with me or just with the community. Started with the community first, like having a farm stand, just seeing everybody show up, like the same people week after week. So stoked to be there to see the farm. And then people that have been living in Encinitas a while, knowing that they're like, oh, farming's coming back to Encinitas and blah, blah, just like that
Mm.
feeling. And then David being there, being really stoked. I can talk a little more about how like I got the offer at Fox Point, which is an agrihood. And then so I did that, and then just like I was like, David, you've been working here for like a year or two or however long it was, and do you want to take this over? Like he had a couple of backyard raised beds and stuff, so and community garden stuff. So it was like he's going from his small garden or backyard to like a bigger, eighth of an acre farm. So that like potted him up, as I like to say. And then like I went from the eighth of an acre to 2 acres. So that like
Mm.
potted me up. And so it's just like you're growing at literally like as like growing together. So it was a really cool transition that he took it over, and then I moved into another bigger space and running the biggest farm I ever have, and still doing it. And it's exciting and tough and fun and challenging, and like there's just so many moving parts all the time, which we can get into. As an agrihood, there's several businesses on site, and it is quite challenging and also fun.
Yeah, we can talk about Foxman, but I appreciate how you did take us through all the different stages of life and people and connections and kind of ways that you found yourself to where you are now, especially getting into the farming space specifically, but even just like within a food system, because we're seeing it right now in San Diego specifically, where there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people who really want to get into farming. They want to get into the space of land tending. They want to get into the food system. They want to make a living out of it. And there really isn't a linear path to walk. So there
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, the need for people to have that drive and have that curiosity and have that willingness to try something
Yeah.
different and piece it together and kind of figure out how it works and be willing to learn from others. And also for we need to have people who are willing to open up their door and open up their space to help someone else. So I love that you brought in all the people that
Mm-hmm.
really did play a role and help you along your way, because I think in this realm of wanting to change the food system and also make it more, create something that we can live with long term,
Mm-hmm.
that ability for people to be able to come in from a different space, from an outside space, and learn and work together, and there be collaboration and growth that's like imminent to this working. So I just wanted to highlight that because I love that aspect of what you were sharing within your story.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, you touched on like people. There's not a linear path for agriculture unless you like grew up on a farm, and then like, your parents did and your grandparents did before that. And they're like, okay, this is what you're gonna do or whatever. Like it's kind of mapped out.
That's
But if
true.
a lot of people have
Yeah.
like maybe more so now than like they want to get involved in back to land or
Mm.
farming, and it's very not I mean it's very romanticized in a way, but I mean in some ways it's not. Like there's everybody knows like farmers work hard, they work long hours, but there is a romanticized version of, oh, I just want land and it's going to be great, and it is, but it's also a hard work, and you put in, as you're a farmer, you're also the accountant and the salesperson and the manager and the HR, and like you have to wear all these hats just as you do with any other, if you're an entrepreneur or starting any other business, wearing all these hats, fixing things. You got to be a mechanic, you got to be an electrician, you got to like like
Yeah.
and then also grow food, and which is like the
Yeah.
core. But you were saying like how people, I don't know if it was a question of like how people can get involved or how they, if they
Yeah.
have a knack and they like gardening and they, or first of all, start a garden. If you think you like farming or you want to get back to land, or if you just like being at like an orchard or you're some, you've seen fruit trees grow and that really resonates with you, start a garden at your house, plant some trees. Trees take like
Hmm.
2 to 3 years to even like 5 years to even fruit. So like that time and that patience like really humbles you because it's not quick. Vegetables are a little quicker. You can get lettuce in, month and a half, like 2 months, radishes in like 30 days. But tomatoes take like 3 months and onions take like 6 months. So, you plant a seed and you're like, all right, like cool. Like I'm I'm hungry. It's just it humbles you. It humbles you when you know like how much time it takes. And then one of the mistakes I saw people in gardens and stuff is they would plant like their entire, raised bed full of lettuce or whatever, or full of like one thing or a couple things, and then it would all be ready at once. And you're like,
Yeah.
then you have to share it, which is cool. You can preserve it, like can it, whatever. So learning to like do succession planting, like, all right, I'm going to plant 5 lettuce heads right here, and then like in a week or two, I'm going to plant 5 more. So then it has like a it's staggering the harvest so that you can like have a constant or consistent supply. Anyways, if you're interested in
Yeah.
gardening and farming or want to become a farmer, you don't have to buy land first. Start a garden first at your house or even in pots, like on a balcony and a ledge. Volunteer on someone else's farm. Do some woofing. That's like a long-term thing. Could be a couple weeks, do a couple months if you want to like really dive in. But there's volunteer days at plenty of farms around, hopefully in your area. I know there are in San Diego. But do a day of work, do 5 days of work, and then keep going from there. Can you sustain? Do you like being outside for 8 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours? Is it the growing food aspect? Do you like? Do you want to be part of the processing and washing things? Do you want to be a farmer's market, like a vendor, like someone, a forward facing customer service facing thing? There's all these. Do you want to raise chickens? Do you like the eggs? Do you like meat? Do you like vegetables? Do you like fruits? Do you like honey? Like some of those things are going to resonate with you. There's so many different jobs on a farm. So like see which one resonates with you, read books, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos. Like I said, I was a first generation farmer, didn't have any experience. It's just like learn by doing something that doesn't work. Why didn't it work? Figure it out. And like it's healthy soil grows healthy plants. Like number one, healthy soil. Got to keep it watered, got to have good compost and good nutrients. Big difference between dirt and soil. The Rodale Institute always, this is a different thing, but healthy soil equals healthy plants equals healthy people. So then, anyways, healthy soils is number one. Number one, you will be humbled. It's the hippie thing to say, but it's like you're not growing food, you're creating the right conditions for healthy soil, and then the food is the vegetables or the fruits or the animals are the byproduct. Once
Hmm.
that soil's good, then everything else kind of comes into place. Anyways,
Hmm.
yeah, so start small. And if you do like it at that point, like yes, you can buy land. You can also lease land. I literally put out like a Craigslist ad, like, hey, does anybody have land they want to like lease to me, or I want to grow food on your property, like a front yard, a backyard. And I got a lot of hits, and it was cool. And eventually, it was just word of mouth. A friend of a friend had a backyard. It was Mount Molina at the Cardiff County Farm. They were renting there, and I walked to their backyard one day and just like saw this like huge open space, and I was like, we can farm this. Like we can do this. Like let's fucking go. So, anyways, like you can be kind of lean. You bootstrap it. You don't have to have a huge capital investment. But leases are tricky too. Eventually, that place is going to be sold, and or it already did sell, and it's going to be developed, into houses. So you have to learn your infrastructure, your water and stuff can be low cost, like things above ground. Vegetables are quick or easy to turn over or to rip out, like fruit trees, not so much. And that
Yeah.
takes like 5 years, 10 years to maturity. So before you plant a bunch of fruit trees, make sure you know that you're going to be living there or that you're going to have access to that place. Yeah, and then figure out your markets too. This is like getting an apartment. Like it's great to grow food, and like I always thought like, oh, if I grow it, they will come, kind of thing. But you have a bunch of food, and then sometimes it just sits there, and you're like, oh man, like that's kind of a bummer. maybe the price is too high. And we could talk about that stuff. The home scale, small urban farming, market gardening stuff is usually more, um, I wouldn't say expensive. I mean, it is, but it's like you get more calories per your dollar. It's just we don't have, it's not huge machinery and stuff, so you're doing a lot of manual labor, and then the price of a head of lettuce or a tomato is more than what people are used to.
Hmm.
Um, but it's the quality and the craft and the artisanal stuff that you're paying for, and the farmer, you can see it growing. That has something that really like resonates. Maybe like I don't know, foo-foo or woo-woo, but like it's hard to measure. Like knowing your farmer and seeing the food growing, and then like picking it out of the ground and eating it, like it's gonna make you feel good. It's hard to measure, but like we have these internal measurement systems, like our senses and stuff.
Hmm.
Taste buds, smell, everything. But you really tap into that, like really tap into it and see how you feel. Anyways, a lot of
Hmm.
tangents.
Yeah, well, I
So
mean, yeah, you're taking us into different parts of the conversation, but there's threads in there, I think, even with around, what we value and um
yeah.
I think the ways that we understand food and what we kind of hold as the value of food. And I always find that conversation really fascinating. And you can look at like the cultural side of that and just the evolution of it and how it's changed. And I want to talk about cost and kind of like
Mm,
what it really does take to produce food and what
hmm
that real cost is. But before we talk about that, I want you to tell us about Fox Point and just give us a little high level of what is Fox Point? What are you doing right now? I want to talk a little bit about agrihoods because I'm curious what took you into from the Cardiff Tiny Farm into this more agrihood model and kind of where that came up. Because you were kind of interested in agrihoods before Fox Point, right?
Yeah, definitely. Doing all these other jobs like rainwater, gray water, that was when I first heard about agrihoods. It was like 12 or 13 years ago, whatever it was. Anyway, so I was fascinated with like, okay, these communities or this housing project or this, yeah, like if it's an HOA with 100 homes or 10 homes or whatever, it's like they're sharing resources. They have solar panels on top. They have rainwater collections. They have a huge garden. They have like a orchard. They have like that just kind of sounds like hippie, hippy dippy, but it's like that just made so much sense to me. And I was like, why is that not around? And there was a few around. But anyways, so these concept of agrihoods really resonated with me. It's mind blowing to like, yeah, grow food where you live. It's like
Hmm.
humans have been doing that for however many thousand, whatever, like, but we've just lost that. And now to see it kind of come back where it's not just every single square foot is a house. It's like, no, there's dedicated space for growing food you know, to keep the whatever community that was, or the city itself healthy with healthy food. And also interacting with people is going to make you healthy. Just that social aspect of it, being outside and getting some sunlight, getting some exercise. Anyways, so this concept of agrihoods really resonated with me. And then when I was at the Cardiff Tiny Farm, there was two people that like kind of connected me. Well, one, I saw an article in the local paper saying that Fox Point Agrihood was going to be developed in Encinitas. And I was like, sweet,
Mm.
agrihood, like in Encinitas, this is where I live. This is what I want. I have to reach out to this person and like see what's going on. Um, so I saw like just, it was Nolan Communities, the developer. So I reached out or I think I called where it was going to be developed. There was like a greenhouse farm, a flower farm on there currently. And so I called them and I went there and, I just like walked on the property and like wanted to talk to the owner. And I remember I hear from my current boss now that the old tenant was just like, hey, there's this hippie farmer named Greg that's like trying to get a hold of you and talk to you. And so that's what set me up with Brian Grover, who's the current CEO and founder of Fox Point Farms. Fox Point Farms is an agrihood in Encinitas. There's 250 homes on site. There's a 2.5 acre, like 3 acre farm, um, vegetable production. We have animals. We have fruit trees. There's about an acre of fruit trees and then the 2 acres of vegetables. On site, there is several businesses. There's a restaurant, like a nice restaurant. There's a 2-story building. So upstairs is Haven Restaurant. Downstairs is we have a cafe and a market where we sell the produce from the farm goes in there, plus a lot of other farms throughout San Diego or Southern California, or people that have the same ethos, like regenerative organic style food or style growing practices. There's an apothecary on site where we make tea and soaps and body salves. There's an organic brewery. I really pushed for the organic brewery because I wanted to use the spent grain from the brewery on the farm, either for the animals or just putting it into the soil. Got a lot of pushback from that, but I'm so glad I did it. Hopefully it makes sense like financially, but because the organic grains are more expensive. But yeah, there's events and yoga and live music and weddings and all kinds of stuff. So it's this cool 20-acre property. 13 of it is for housing. The other 7 or so is for the businesses. Yeah, all the houses have sold and been built. We're 2 years in now, almost on our second anniversary. Think of like if it was like an HOA and the farm is like the amenity. Instead of a golf course, you have this farm. And we have different times people can come on the farm, and there's a trail that walks around. There's different business models within agrihoods, and we could talk about that too. Ours is a for-profit farm where we sell the goods, but there's other models that can be a nonprofit. You can be a part. We are not part of the HOA, so we're not taking subsidies or any money from the HOA. That was part of the early decisions to do that. A little bit on me, a little bit on Brian, the CEO. Maybe it was my stubbornness saying like, we can farm this and we can make money, and it's, let's do this in a for lack of a better word, like a capitalistic way. Let's we have land, we have a product, we are going to sell it, and we have labor, and we can do this. We don't need a subsidy. I mean, yes, it's cool to get government grants and stuff, but that's like a false, I don't know. I'm just a little stubborn. I think I know other people are doing it. Like, I know I can do it, and just got to figure it out. And I want farming to be a viable business without subsidies or without, like, it's great to get help. Maybe I need to get some help every now and then, but it's like, I want farming as a business, an urban farm, to be a sustainable profession for years to come. And this is having like an outlet right on site with a restaurant and a market. And like, I directly take the food from the farm to the end consumer, or like to the market or to the restaurant. So you cut out distribution, which is where a lot of the money gets tied up in agriculture. The food is grown, hundreds of miles away. It needs trucking, it needs distribution, it needs packaging, it needs storage. So all that so you got your farmer in conventional or whatever. You got your farmer, you got your picking crew or your harvest crew, you got your washing crew, you got your distribution, you got storage, and there's probably some other things in there. And then you got like your final sales outlet, like a grocery store. So each one of those, well, maybe a farm, like there's a harvester, there's a harvest crew, but each one of those steps, like the price goes up from, like, it starts off at $1 a pound or something, depending, like lettuce or whatever. And then you sell it to the distributor for $1, and then the distributor sells it to the grocery store for $2 or $3. So that's why the price keeps increasing there. Even though vegetables are super cheap, the farmer is only seeing like 10 cents on the dollar, or like whatever. In market gardening, listening to podcasts and stuff, they're like, if you do your own distribution and you're in the city where people live, like, I can go to a farmer's market, I can go to restaurants, I can do my own distribution, and then most of the money is going to the farmer. So that was kind of like the idea. Anyways, after like a big rant, I'm always like, oh, that was
it's okay. I mean, there's so many topics in that, because I mean, we are going to transition into true cost of food, and you kind of lay the runway for that, because there are these two sides that, even the way that you just explained that is kind of perfect. And I'm going to tease it apart a little bit, where when you look at more of the hyper local side of, like you said, you grow the food and it directly goes from, you to the restaurant, you to the consumer per se. And you're taking out that middleman, you're taking out that distribution, like all of those processes that kind of take the cost of that food away from the farmer really making any money. But yet that shorter chain, the food product that's coming out of that tends to be more expensive. And this is where everyone gets very confused, and why we really need to talk about that true cost, because in that longer chain, that longer supply chain, that end product, what's front facing for a consumer is that it is a lot cheaper, but it's actually significantly more expensive to produce. So can you just talk about that a little bit, of that, like that true cost space of Why why is that? And I know that there's so many like details and statistics and numbers that we can go into, but just to kind of tease that apart a little bit more to help some people understand why is that different and why would, even like the tomato that's sold at, I don't know, Sprouts or somewhere like Vaughn's that's certified organic, why is that still cheaper than the tomato that might come out of the local farm that's down the
Yeah.
road?
Well, to start off, some things are grown hydroponically. So that could be like tomatoes or blueberries or blackberries, some things like that, like lettuce. They can be inexpensively, I don't know if it's, but you can grow on a huge scale and you can like grow really tall. And even, I was just hating on the, um, hydroponics can still get an organic certification. So in the
Mm-hmm.
US, but not in the rest of the world. Well, I don't know how many other countries, but ban it. But anyway, so that's one thing. But true cost of food, and why it's like maybe, yeah, we're cutting out all these parts of the supply chain, but it's still expensive or more expensive than what you see in conventional. Um, Couple things. One is labor, land, water, and like machinery. I think land is a huge thing, and machinery, and also government subsidies. Farther away from the city, however X amount of 100 miles you go, land is going to be inexpensive, or like less expensive than it would be in the city. Um, so then the value of land in a city, if it's twice as much or 5 times as much or whatever, like that real estate is expensive. And if you're taking up that real estate by growing vegetables, then you have to, demand a higher price to keep the land or keep the lease or make your mortgage payment or whatever. So if food grown far away, the land itself is less expensive and maybe labor is less expensive. I don't want to like hate on things, but minimum wage or migrant worker or like seasonal workers exploited. But one of the, I guess, good things is sometimes there's like on-site housing, which there is some farms in here. If you have on-site housing, then they can get paid minimum wage because they're not paying for rent. I mean, I hope I'm not speculating, but that'd be a way that like the farmer or can pay their laborers a low amount, but still livable. Or if they're, sucks to say, but if they're like migrant workers and they just need it, or they're getting more money here than they would, in another country, but that they're still being exploited. Like they're still working tons of hours, living in tight conditions. Anyways, that's a whole nother rant. So like low cost of labor out there, low land cost, and then government subsidies. And I'm definitely not an expert in like the policy or like what government does. Government, man. But I know that there's something, and if please anybody reach out and talk to me about this more, that's more of an expert. But if like government can subsidize food to keep prices low or high, like they can um like control the supply a little bit, or if they're giving
Mm-hmm.
money to farmers or they're buying the produce, sometimes the distributor just sets the price, and like the farmer is forced to say like, oh, okay, they're a price taker at that point. They're like, oh, the distributor's only going to pay X amount for this bushel of corn or this heads of lettuce. So like they're forced to just to surrender that, to say, yeah. So this is another tangent. Like I don't want to be a price taker. I want to set my price and be like,
Mm-hmm.
as a business, this is what the cost of seed is. This is what the cost of land is. This is what the cost of labor is. This is how much time it takes. And if you're any business savvy or business minded, it's like you have your cost, and you want that like with all your labor, cog, like cost of goods sold, rent, utilities, and so adding up all those things, and then you want to sell your product for double or triple or quadruple what that is, so that you can cover all your cogs and you can cover all your labor and still have a little bit of profit for a rainy day and still make a living at it. So the cost of like why I think that what people are used to seeing in the grocery store is that way, is it's grown far away, but the distribution or food system was designed that way. Um, and there was a time where people grew most of their food, victory gardens, things like that. Um, but then after I'm dating World War II or whatever, or after the
Mm-hmm.
Great Depression and World War II, you know, the systems changed to synthetic fertilizers, synthetic chemicals. So right now, like I don't use any chemicals or fertilizers, synthetic chemicals or fertilizers. That is a inexpensive way to grow food. The food quality is like you're poisoning your food, you're poisoning the land, hating a little bit on that. But then the food quality is subpar as well. But it is a cheap way to grow food. For instead of a labor at $25 an hour or whatever, 20 to $25 an hour, going out there and actually weeding like with like a hula hoe, physically, boom, 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 and taking hours to do it, you a different a different strategy in farming would be to just spray chemicals on it which would be much less expensive and effective. Like essentially like you're killing X weed or whatever, but then that is at a cost for the quality of the food and the soil. And then your waterways, so it doesn't feel good to like put chemicals on the ground and then have it rain. And then all those chemicals go to the rivers and the oceans and like, just, it sucks. So doing it the right way, or like having with land run relationship and trying to heal the earth instead of just like create it like a factory where you're just like trying to extract as much as you can, does take time and does take effort. And it takes a lot of care and planning and strategy to not use chemicals. And then also big machinery too. Sometimes the government is subsidizing, your combines, like your harvesting materials, your tractors. Again, please, anybody listening to this, like reach out to me, because this is what I just hear and read about, but and listen to. But if there's programs that subsidize the machinery and then loop them into, like, you have to use that $1 million piece of machinery or tractor or whatever to grow the said food, then you're just kind of like looped into this cycle. The farmer is then looped into the cycle of, I have to keep growing this thing to pay off this machine or this land or these fertilizers or whatever. Seed companies with pharmaceutical companies with pesticide companies and also
Mm-hmm.
institutions like universities and things. Just a just
Mm.
a total mind F. I'm gonna curse on the podcast, but I probably already have a bunch. Um,
It's okay.
where like the companies make a certain product and I mean, Roundup Ready is like a common thing, or GMO'd, where this seed was just used. I mean, corn is like the most common example. It's like they use this corn seed, and Roundup Ready means that you can spray Roundup, which is a glyphosate. It's a chemical that is a herbicide, I believe, an herbicide. So it's killing the weeds around
Mm-hmm.
the corn. So once it's ready, it's already has that like capability to fight off that herbicide, but the other weeds around it don't. So those pesticide companies they're also part of a fertilizer company, so they're like one and the same, and then they fund a college wing or something, or an ag school, saying like, yes, this is what you have to use in order to grow food. So it's like, and then they're also involved with government policy saying that these things are okay and safe to use. So that's what makes it much, much cheaper, like using all those things. And it's at the expense of the world population, like humans, the land itself, the animals. And meanwhile, just a few people at the top I'm totally getting into conspiracy right now. This is crazy. But they're,
I mean,
yeah,
this is more than conspiracy. This is, if anyone
yeah,
listening has ever read, or if
yeah,
you've read the Monsanto Papers, that book, like
yeah,
it's it is true. There's a lot that happens at a high level of people who are making decisions that are knowingly making those decisions at the cost of
yeah.
everyone else that's going to have to live with those decisions. And yes, everyone, when you read a study, you should know who's funding that study to know how those results were even determined in some way, shape, or form. So yes, I'm right
Okay,
there
good.
with you. But I would
It's
say
very real.
I wouldn't even
I
call it
think
a
it is.
conspiracy. I would say it's
I
very
don't want to.
real,
I don't want to
unfortunately.
like
Yeah.
blurt a bunch of stuff out that's not true, but I think it is true. And also, so why we do what we do, and I farm the way I farm, And that's why it is also more expensive. And I hope people can understand,
Yeah.
like, yes, with their taste buds or how it makes you feel internally, like you have more energy. You don't need as much of the food grown with high nutrient density and high quality to fill you up or to like nourish you. Like it's good wholesome calories and antioxidants and everything. It's not empty calories. So yeah, it's more expensive than what your
Hmm.
people are used to, but it'll make you feel good. And it's also what's the preventative healthcare versus reactive healthcare? You heard something about that? If we take care of our bodies, then we're preventing an illness from even coming into play versus
Hmm.
that's preventing it from even happening.
Yeah.
And then versus a reactive one, if you get sick, then you have to take a pill, whatever. That's a very reactive thing. And I think about that in farming too. That's my farming practices are what resonates with me. Preventative, like how we take care of the soil is how we take care of our bodies. Like if I am proactive and take care of the soil in a healthy way, it's going to create good, you know, hopefully less weeds, less pests. And therefore I won't have to use a chemical and be reactive to spray like a chemical on them. There was one more thing about
Hmm.
being price
Yeah.
sensitive, or we're just so used to seeing a certain price for vegetables or meats and fruits in the store, but it's really not that expensive. Like compared to your income, if you see, we're very price sensitive. Like we're, you know, American consumerism, very price sensitive. Like, oh, if this one's like $1 cheaper, I'm going to do the cheaper one. But like, you're not going to, anyways, I read something a while back that I think it was in the 50s or whatever that people spent, maybe that's 70s or 60s, like where people spent 25% of their income on food. And now it's like 5 to 10%. Maybe that's because housing is more expensive or inflation or whatever. But if you just chew and then, but I'm then hating again, but
Hmm.
people buy, you know, an $8 latte or buy
Yeah.
like $100 shoe, whatever, you know, it's like frivolous things, which can make you feel good. And it's cool to have those things. But if you're not like spending your money on the one of the things that keeps you alive and one of the things that keeps you healthy, that's like just a priority shift. And that's maybe it's a big marketing thing that like, you know, a worldwide marketing campaign. But just to get people to spend more on their food versus like racing for the bottom price. Like don't want to race for the bottom price in food. This is one thing that keeps you
Hmm.
alive and makes you feel good, that keeps you healthy and out of the hospital. Like I don't want to match their prices. I want to like
Hmm.
show, and I do with my prices. It is more expensive than we're used to, but it's still not enough for it doesn't
Hmm.
like I still discount my produce because I barely like break even on it. Like I would love to charge more or double or triple what I do because that's what an actual business model would be. But people won't pay it. People won't pay it. So you have to like kind of meet in the middle a little bit. Anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, that conversation is always interesting, and I feel like there's an aspect of that kind of the way that we see. I mean, I think I started to speak to in the beginning of like the value of food. I feel like when you
Mm-hmm.
start to get into being able to interact with and exist with like food in a relationship that's beyond just, you know, this transactional space of like something I buy and I eat, and ways that we
Yeah.
don't really relate to it on really a big scale, I think so much, especially here in the West, but there's so much more
Mm-hmm.
value behind that,
Uh-huh.
you know, local, regeneratively grown, you know, vegetable or whatever it is that you're buying. But that ability to, like what
Yeah.
you spoke to in the beginning of like, you're connecting with your farmer, you're connecting with other people, you're, you know, connecting with community, you're being outside in the sun. There's like, you're active, you're sharing space with people who probably share similar values and interests. And like, there's all these other things that you also receive that is encompassed in what is also a financial transaction, because you're also supporting the livelihoods of the people who are making it possible for you to have that nourishment that you can have. And I think so much of that can get missed in the ways when we're so separate from that place where something does come from and originate. And, you know, there's so many layers to that,
Needing
'cause
to
it's like
not.
everyone doesn't have to grow their own food. I think it will change your life if you grow something in some way, shape, or form. It'll change the way that you see, I think, just like everything around you, but you don't have to be someone who does that for a living. But we all need to be more connected to that process and what it really takes and how that exists and what makes it possible. So yeah, I always find that conversation fascinating because I think even the way that you're exploring of even that statement that you
Yeah.
made of like I want this to be a sustainable, like viable livelihood. I want to make this possible. I want this to be a business that can sustain, and like farming needs to
Yeah.
exist in this way.
It's goods and bads. I mean, to be honest, like the vegetable side of produce, like of growing produce, vegetable sales is like a break even, which I'd want it to be more like, 2 to 1 or like 4 to 1. But like we have other
Yeah.
aspects on the farm to help generate income, and one of them is agritourism, and schools.
Yeah.
So we're just getting really crafty in a business savvy way. If the farm vegetable sales can't just pay for itself. I don't know, which it does, but just like I said, you need extra money for like profits and or for rainy days. And so yeah, the agritourism is huge, connecting people to land. Like we have a bunch of animals on our farm, and we do a rotational grazing program. Um, Grow a cover crop, and then like we have 10 field blocks, so we they're 75 by 100 feet, and we grow a cover crop, and then for like 2 months, and then bring in some animals to graze on it. They eat it down super quick.
Yeah.
But then we fence them in, and then in that on that block, and people can come take a tour and pay an entry fee, and them and their kids get to come out and see the farm and talk to the farmers and feed some animals. It's a petting zoo, but it's like super awesome because you have 30 different animals, like 3 cows, a horse, like 2 pigs, a couple alpacas, 5 goats, 30 chickens, and a bunny. So there's all kinds of like diversification, and then that helps out a ton. um, farm table dinners, and then farm schools. So those are like just other ways. We try to do a U pick. So just getting crafty with, instead of just direct sales, other ways that your farm can be
Mm-hmm.
an event space, or like, hosting. And like I said, we have, restaurant things on site, which helps out a lot. And yeah, people just they are, what I've noticed is that they are longing to see
Yeah.
like food being grown, or longing for their kids to get off off the screens or whatever, longing to be in community. Like we're so isolated, all of our houses are just like it's just one, single family unit or whatever, with your fence up and everything. So people are longing to connect to each other. They're longing for their kids. Most of the demographic is families with young kids from like ages 4 to 10 or 12 or so, or even like and babies for sure, like people with their toddlers. So they want their kids to be out there to see and the kids love it too. They're like, oh, look at this animals, like look at this, like they're very intuitive. They know how to they know what good food is. I don't know. I think that kids like vegetables if it tastes good, because they always like pick a tomato or um,
Mm.
pick a broccoli off the thing. The good thing about it is that people are longing to come to the farm, and you just have to kind of feel into that a little bit of volunteer days. Yeah, getting the kids on the farm with their parents, and then that's like good. They're great customers as well. I forgot, like a little bit about nutrient density. We talked about like proximity of things. There are ways to measure this. So like just say I grow a carrot, and it has just to measure how much nutritional value it is in real time. Like there's no barcode on it. There's no like nutrition facts or whatever. But like, can you measure the amount of nutrients that are in there? Calcium, antioxidants, polyphenols, whatever, proteins. Um, there are About 5 years ago, I was involved in some beta testing with a company on the
Okay.
Bionutrient Food Association. They had like an in-field light spectrometer, which is just like it's a light, obviously, it's a light that just lets you see in real time through an app on your phone how much nutrients is in the produce. That company it was a nonprofit. It kind of fizzled out a little bit. There are other companies. I'd love to get back involved in that, just to prove mathematically that produce grown in healthy soil without chemicals and without pesticides is healthier and has more nutritional value than something that does. Because that will show, like, we can feel it, and we can say like, oh, I want to do this thing. But until, in my opinion, I don't, it'll really move the needle if people can see the hard data, the hard facts. So there's that nutritional
Yeah.
density. Right now we can measure it in something called BRICS, BRIX, which is just measuring water soluble somethings. like particles, or but it's like pretty much just measuring how
Hmm.
how much sugar is in, like glucose is in said liquid, and a bunch of other minerals too, mostly sugars. So if you just like squeeze a tomato or squeeze a
Yeah.
carrot or squeeze even like a like a piece of spinach or something, you can really like squeeze it and get a drop out of it. And it's this little device that's like 40 or $50. And the wine industry has used it for decade, eons, and so does the beer industry. It's called a refractometer. You just put a drop of said thing in on this little microscope kind of thing, and it gives you a rating of how dense it is, like how much it's dissolved solids. I think that's right. Someone correct me if I'm wrong,
Mm.
but measuring how dense it is, and that is essentially showing a broad spectrum of nutrient density. It's not specifying like said nutrient like individually, but it's more of like a overall encompassing thing. The wine industry uses it for alcohol, like when the grapes are ready, they'll be like, okay, they measure it, they take a grape and squeeze it on this thing throughout the growing season. And once it has a preferred amount, like a preferred rating, that means it has a bunch of sugars in it and it's ready for picking and then to make that wine. And we can do the same thing with beer. They measure the alcohol that way. Anyways, like you can take a reading before and after the fermentation process, and
Yeah.
that just kind of gives you how much alcohol, shows you how much alcohol is in it. Anyway, so those are things that we have right now. I would love for more the nutrient density spectroscopy spectrum to come around. I know Chef Dan Barber was doing some
Mm.
stuff. I'd have to like research more on what he's doing, and anybody else, if anybody that's listening has some insight on that, love to hear more and be part of the testing
Interesting.
without giving out my phone number or something, which is fine. But let's see, Instagram, Farmer Greg Official. You can read about at Fox Point Farms on Instagram. My email, Greg at Fox Point Farms. Love to hear from you. You can message me or write me an email or something. Yeah, and check out Fox Point. Check out, I don't know, other farms in Encinitas too. There's a really cool community here. And hopefully it's like a spark if you want to start something like that in your area. Try to find a small farm in your area. Go to the farmer's market, talk to the farmer, reach out, go to a volunteer day, go to a U pick, something like that. Time is now. Don't procrastinate. Just do it. See what happens.
Get involved in your food community. It'll change your life. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and just sharing your time and yeah, sharing more about who you are and what you're doing. It's been fun. We talked about everything. We covered all the topics.